On election night in 2012, the night President Obama was reelected, it was Mitt Romney, of course, who came out on the losing end. That night marked the end of Mitt Romney's political career, we think. There was another Massachusetts political loss, however, Scott Brown for Senate. In November 2012, Senator Scott Brown of Massachusetts was up for re-election. He was facing what everybody considered to be a pretty uphill climb. Massachusetts is, as you know, a blue state. President Obama was on the ballot, which is going to drive up Democratic voters, and he was up against a strong challenger in someone you may have heard of, Elizabeth Warren. And so, to the surprise of, well, almost nobody by the end of it, Mr. Brown lost that night. He handed that Senate seat back to the Dems. And he handed his top advisor, a guy named Eric Fernstrom, who worked for Romney, well, his second loss in one night. He handed the political chattering class in this country a big question that actually up until today, Friday, had remained unanswered. What will Scott Brown do next? Almost from the minute that he lost that Senate seat in 2012, there's been an unending stream of speculation from politicos about what this short-term Republican senator would do for Massachusetts. Would he run for John Kerry's old Senate seat? No, he would not. Would he follow the well-worn path of failed Republican candidates of the past and join Fox News? Yes, he would. He did that. Would he continue to provide unintentional comic relief on Twitter? He would, for those who remember that one. But today, Scott Brown answered the biggest unanswered question of them all. Would he attempt to pull off that rarest of all political feats that any Politico can appreciate? Would he attempt to win back his U.S. Senate seat from another state? Yes, today Scott Brown answered that question.
So I'm announcing today that I formed an exploratory committee to prepare a campaign for the United States Senate in New Hampshire.
The most important words there were in New Hampshire. Former Republican Senator Scott Brown of Massachusetts made it official that he is moving towards running for the U.S. Senate in a brand new state. Scott Brown was introduced at that event today as, quote, Scott Brown from New Hampshire, end quote. He spent much of his speech detailing his roots in New Hampshire. Scott Brown and his family have actually, for a long time, maintained a second home in New Hampshire, which is where they now reside. And right after he was done with that speech today, the New Hampshire Democratic Party said this.
Nobody does it better than Massachusetts, folks.
I'm going to do what I think is right for Massachusetts first.
I'm a Republican from Massachusetts.
I'm a Massachusetts Republican. I'm proud to be from Massachusetts. I'm proud to be from Massachusetts.
I'm also a proud citizen of Massachusetts.
As I said, I'm from here. I care very much. I'll probably die here.
We still live here. I'm from Massachusetts.
Scott Brown has been flirting for months now with pursuing the Senate seat, and that ad right there is, well, politically, it's what he has to look forward to if he does fully jump into the race. He'll first have to get through a GOP primary, and if he does, he'll be taking on a sitting Democratic senator, Jeanne Shaheen, who has held that Senate seat since 2009. Before that, she was the governor of New Hampshire. For 3 terms before that, she was a member of the state Senate. She's a known quantity there, a local quantity. Scott Brown, well, he's had a vacation home there for a long time. He may call it something else. And if he decides to get into this race, which looks probable, he faces 2 big challenges. Number one, he's got to convince New Hampshire voters that he's the best person to represent them in the Senate. That's always the case. Number 2, though, he has to convince these voters that he is one of them. Now, it's not like that's never been done before, but it hasn't been done that often. It's actually happened a few times, well, right here in New York. Former Democratic Senators Robert F. Kennedy and Hillary Clinton, they weren't from here, but they did manage to shed any of that carpetbagger stigma and win over the hearts and the votes of New Yorkers. Neither RFK nor Hillary Clinton tried to win those Senate seats, however, after already serving in the same body from another state. According to the U.S. Senate Historical Office, that thing that Scott Brown's now trying to do has only been done twice in U.S. history, and not since the 1870s. Today, Scott Brown took the first steps towards trying to pull it off, and he has less than 8 months to do it. A whole lot of I'm proud to be from Massachusetts video to scrub from the internet, and a whole lot of work. Well, that does it for us tonight. Rachel will be back here on Monday. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Ari Melber. And now, as Rachel would say, well, you got to go to prison. Good night.